Frankie, and this is our podcast on life after university. I'm going to hand over to our two guests if you'd like to introduce yourself.
My name's Jordan Sahota. I am a university lecturer and a therapy business owner. I studied sports therapy here on the undergraduate degree programme and then did the MSCI, the master's programme as well.
Hi, I'm Charlotte and I currently work in digital marketing at the university. I studied dance undergrad and then did a master's in digital marketing. Bit of a mix up, but yeah.
Oh, amazing. So going back when you kind of were applying to universities, what made you choose Chichester over all the others?
Staying on that dance thread, actually, I used to be an international boy Latin dancer, and at the time I was still, when I was at college, I was still competing, and I was born and bred in Winchester, and I wanted to stay quite local. Sports therapy, University of Chichester was the only sports therapy program I applied to. It was the only one south of London at the time, and it allowed me to stay quite local and then still compete. Turns out I never competed after I came to university, but it was there because it was a small campus feel that I went to a small school, I went to a big college, felt very out of place, and then came to a small university and felt comfortable back at home. And if you know Winchester and you know Chichester, they're the same city, just one's on a hill and one's on a flat surface. Yep. So I felt very much at home looking around here.
Oh, amazing. Perfect.
Yeah, that was similar for me. I kind of like the more smaller feel of the uni and being able to make more like friendships and connections on a smaller campus. I also found that other universities didn't have that many, for the undergrad dance, many dance students on the course, which I feel like especially for a creative industry, you kind of need to collaborate with a lot of different people. So Chichester was definitely, it ticked the boxes for that. It wasn't too far away from home, so it was like an hour 40 to 2 hour drive, which worked really well. And also my sister did come here, so it kind of influenced me a little bit. But perfect. Technically I didn't want to go to the same uni as her. It just so happened that that's
just
how it
won
ended
you
up.
over.
It wasn't really because of her, but it was actually quite nice because she had such a good experience, and I just knew that I kind of would have the same kind of vibe as well. So yeah. It worked well.
Amazing. And did like knowing what you wanted to do, did that influence what uni you chose, what course you chose? Did you know what you wanted to do kind of when you started uni or were looking?
I did definitely, but
yeah, I think I always knew I wanted to be a dancer.
Yeah.
So that definitely influenced like my career. But then I actually graduated in COVID, so it kind of really did like divert me to doing a completely different course, which was obviously digital marketing in the end. But I found that there was like transferable skills from the dance degree to the marketing degree. Whereas when I told people that I was doing that, they were like, "Why are you doing that? That's so weird." But it worked really in my favour, and I feel like my communication skills and everything from being in the dance industry has definitely influenced me in my career now in digital marketing. But originally, obviously, when I was looking at uni, I didn't think I'd be in a digital marketing. I thought I'd be dancing on stages and stuff.
No, completely. Because when I was looking for universities, I applied for a primary teaching course to start with. I was like, I'm going to be a teacher, and then like a few weeks before I started, I was like, oh god, I don't know if this is what I want to do anymore. So I chose sociology and criminology. I'm graduating soon, so I've done the 3 years, and it was just something that opened like so many doors, and I was like, okay, this is a little bit more me. I'll be able to decide kind of after 3 years, and luckily like I want to go into something completely different than like when I first started.
I feel like that's like what you can do at uni as well. You can trial different things and
100%
come out with a completely different kind of thing that you came in with beforehand, and it actually works in better favour to what you actually originally set out to do.
Yeah, 100%. And how did you find your experience at uni? Like, what were the ups and the downs?
I ticked the boxes in terms of what I wanted to leave uni with, if that makes sense. So I came into uni knowing that I wanted to do sports therapy because I basically had a knee operation at 14. I had 2 injections in my knee by the time I was 17. And I wanted to learn more about what was going on with my body at the same time of never wanting to work a day in the NHS. So that's not against anybody that does, but it just wasn't for me. Yeah. And so sports therapy was that route way. And I wanted to, at the time, I remember sitting in the lecture room behind one of the plinths like, I want to work in sport. Like day one, I want to work in sport. Come to my master's year, I worked with Bournemouth Football Club for a year. After 2 weeks of being there, I was like, I don't want to work in sport anymore. But without doing that, I wouldn't have ticked the box. I'd always have that kind of regret of not knowing what it was like. And so, yeah, I followed that path knowing that's what I wanted to do, but it then set me on the new path of I'm still in the same area that I want to be in, but not to what I thought I was going to be in when I first came in. So it's kind of in between the two, really, of staying on what I wanted to do, but branching out in a different direction with it.
Yeah. Oh, amazing.
Yeah, I feel like I'm similar in the sense that I just tried different things, and then I was really committed to doing dance and like put my all into like my like degree, and then doing like placements and stuff, like teaching, had like part-time job alongside it in teaching and stuff like that. So, and then it was mainly because I just wanted to like try a different thing, and then digital marketing was like my best route for it. And placements and stuff like that definitely helped with, you know, build my confidence into applying in different places and stuff like that.
Yeah, because I did a placement as well, which I didn't know that I could do when I like started, and it was kind of like the first time I was able to kind of have like a glimpse into what I wanted to do, and I found that so useful. And yeah, I didn't realise it was something you could do, so I was
had to do placements in order to graduate, so we had to do a minimum of 200 hours of placement, which sounds like a lot in the grand scheme of things. It's not a huge amount. But we had to do placements, and I know a lot of people that just went to one club and did all their placements there, and I was like, well, I know that at that time I wanted to work in sports, so I will go with clubs, but if I don't taste these other areas, that I'll never know whether I wanted to learn and go down that route or not. And I did a huge variety of different placements. One I didn't do was the NHS though, but that's then now there's job roles available in the NHS, but when I was a student there wasn't for sports therapists at the time. So but what it allowed me to do was go, okay, if sport doesn't work, I kind of like this area, I can go down that bit a bit more. If it does work, I could do this on the side of that and stuff like that. So from a sports therapy perspective, I learned so much at the university, but I learned so much more on placement, not just what I wanted to do, but how things actually work in the real world and how you can apply your skills. And it's more than just knowing how to treat a joint, for example, in my area, but how to communicate with people and how to show empathy and that 100%. Side of stuff, which if you don't get those soft skills and those values along the way, then you are going to find it harder in whatever profession you move forward to.
Yeah. So do you feel like university prepared you for the future?
I feel like for me it did, in the sense that I like definitely grew up a lot more when I was at uni, like became much more independent, and was able to trial things that I probably wouldn't have been able to if I did stay at home. I would never imagine that I would be like in digital marketing like when I was like 17, 18. But yeah, I think, like you say, placements and stuff definitely prepare you for like that real world work experience kind of thing. And I think you can obviously get that without uni if you do like apprentices and stuff like that. But I just think for me, uni definitely worked well in the sense that I wanted that student life, but also like to come out with a degree that would definitely enhance me in getting a job and stuff like that. But yeah, I feel like either way you could kind of get those sort of skills potentially.
It definitely did in multiple different ways. If I remember back to my first week of being a student and burning a pizza and not knowing how to cook, and burning a pizza because I thought I needed to go buy more food from Tesco's, forgetting that the pizza was in the oven.
Oh,
right? Yeah. So from like general life skills and actually not relying on other people to do stuff and get your washing done and not drive home and get it done and that sort of stuff, then definitely that's from a kind of general life perspective. But from a course career point of view, there's some bits that I think is always going to be missed in terms of what the real world is like, because there's so much that has to go into certain degrees in the first place. But 90% of it I would say is definitely there, that is still supporting me now.
Yeah. And I'd say like even just like being committed to something for 3-4 years is something that's like so crazy and so good, because like because obviously I don't really want to go into what I've done like with my degree, but the skills I've learned from it, just like being so much more confident like now. Like 3 years ago I never would have been able to sit here with you two and do this. But just like knowing that I've committed to something, got all these amazing like, opportunities out of it, I feel like I never would have got 3 years ago.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm so glad about that. But do you think that uni was worthwhile regardless of whether it's kind of something you've taken out of it, like your degree?
I think for me, yes, 100%. I feel like life skills and stuff like that, making friends, I think they definitely are sort of people that I connect with better here, like just kind of get they kind of get it. When you're at uni, you understand like the struggles and like persevering through it, and like dissertations and stuff like that. It's like a whole situ, isn't it? Like there's a lot of stress, but it's just nice to like, you know, I still am friends with loads of my friends that I met at uni. And I'm obviously, I think I've lived here nearly 6 years now, I think it must be, and I'm still here, so it's just like a nice place to live for me at this time, like in growing in my career and stuff like that. So yeah, I'm a voucher for uni.
Yeah, love it.
And I love Wishy, so it's fine.
Of course. And obviously when you graduate, there's so many options out there. It kind of, for me, like it feels really daunting. It's like, what path do I choose? How did you guys find that? Did you struggle with it? Do you find it quite easy to get straight into a job?
It's kind of trial and error in some instances. So now, for example, I run 2 businesses and I work for a university. But when I first started, I worked in other people's businesses as a therapist, and as a therapist, you kind of start out self-employed. And so you pick up the hours that other people don't want to do or what's available. So it might be a bit of evening work, it might be a bit of weekend work or whatever, whether that's in clubs or in private clinics. And to start with, it was quite difficult. There wasn't a huge amount of jobs available at the time. So I started my own clinic at the same time. I'd always wanted a clinic, but I didn't think I'd do it 3 months out of university. And that was alongside working 2 days for somebody else. Now it's a completely different ball game in terms of the number of different areas you can go down in sports therapy, but also the amount of jobs that are available at this moment in time. And so what I started doing was just picking together different jobs, and I worked in 4 different clinics across the week, until I got to a level where I was like, okay, this one's doing better, I can go down that route and do more hours for them, or take on my own more or whatever. But yeah, it's kind of lost the point of your question there, sorry. But no, I think it's a different time now to what it was potentially when I first graduated, and there was, even then, didn't get jobs that I applied for, or got some disappointment around it, but it's all part of the learning process. And if you get everything, regardless of what you're doing, first time, you don't learn and build on that process and grow as an individual. So yeah, that actually got, as much as I got a job and a career out of the ones that I got more growth and learning through the ones that I potentially didn't get.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah, I applied for like graduate intern jobs when I came out. I think I applied for about 3 or 4. Quite successful, most of them. So
amazing.
Quite lucky in that sense. But I think because it is that like entry level of like, they do want a graduate person. So I think definitely that's a good kind of route to go down, because I know how hard it is in job market. So especially if you are a recent graduate, it's just kind of that like easier way in that sense of like, that job role is technically for you. So I did find that was a bit more helpful in the sense of applying for jobs. So yeah, and obviously I kind of got the job here, and then just obviously progressed in that sense. So it works out in being able to, you know, get your foot in and then climb your way up.
Yeah, definitely.
Can I build on that quickly?
Yeah,
when like there wasn't and there isn't really necessarily like graduate intern jobs for therapists, and when I first graduated, everything was looking for a senior therapist, and it wasn't even a sports therapist, it was a physiotherapist at the time. And so I just went, got nothing to lose. If they say no, they say no. And just applied for it. And actually, one of the best jobs that I got and set me on my path was, it was a senior physiotherapist. I'm not a physiotherapist, I'm a sports therapist. I went for it. In the interview, they basically were trying to find a reason not to employ me. They said that to me afterwards. But if you just don't give them one, and you show your skill set, and show not even just the skill set, but the values and stuff that you hold and will bring to the table and give to that business, then, or that individual, then it might cross the line in different ways than what you thought it was going to. And that I started doing 2 evenings a week and a Saturday for them. And then I went to be working for them full time, and then had to pull it back in order to go different directions. So just because there was others that I went for that I didn't get, I still applied to the same level stuff.
Yeah.
Because that was the only things available, but I also had nothing to lose. So
yeah, it's just about like framing those small things you've done, make them like big things you've done.
Yeah.
Like when like applying for like social media, digital marketing now, which is kind of what I want to do, I have done like the tiniest thing for maybe like 2 days, and I'm like, yeah, like this is my whole life.
Yeah.
This is my personality. And they're like, okay, But how did you find like dealing with rejection or kind of preparing yourself like interviews, stuff like that? Because it can be quite a long, lengthy process. And when you don't get to the end, when you don't get employed, it can feel a bit disheartening. Kind of how did you deal with that?
I just took it as I never expected to get any of the ones that I was going for. So
yeah.
It's either set your expectations low or whatever you want to put it, whatever you want to put it that way. But for me, it was about, okay, I didn't get it, and I applied for multiple different things that I at times really, really wanted and didn't get, and I was just, okay, what feedback are they giving me? What can I take from that feedback? And don't be afraid to go, okay, this is the feedback they gave me. Can I ask questions on that feedback and show, like, just because you haven't got a job with them now doesn't mean there's nothing down the line later on. Yeah. Or you might have a job with them now and you've got to apply to go to the next level and you don't get it, which is what happened to me. And I learned more from, okay, it's not possible at this moment in time with this institution. What can I learn from that interview process or their feedback to use the next time when it comes up somewhere else?
Yeah, amazing. Do you have anything to add on like interviews?
Yeah, I feel like they're always just so nerve-wracking, aren't they? Like you just
so scary.
There's never going to not be a time where it's not scary. But I think obviously just prep as much as possible and just research into the business that you're going you want to apply for, because it just shows that interest. I feel like that's definitely what I did for like the jobs I applied for, was like research them so much.
Yeah.
It does take time and like, but that shows that like extra you care. But yeah, I think it's just one of those things that you just have to, it does take a while, but yeah. It does reap the benefits in the end. But yeah, like you say, like the rejections, they kind of make you grow a bit more because you do feel really disheartened. You're like, oh, I could have got that, but there are obviously people more qualified. But I think because I did just 1 year in digital marketing as masters, the graduate internship for me was like another year of like learning, more practical based.
Yeah.
I feel like if I did dance for the 4 years or 3 years, I probably would have wanted to apply for more like higher up roles. But for me and myself, I wasn't feeling like I could jump straight into those like middle level roles.
Yeah.
So the graduate intern jobs worked best for me. But yeah, so just basically apply for whatever.
Have everything.
But yeah, don't sell yourself too short is what I'd say as well.
One thing as an employer now is first impressions do count. And I've literally opened the door of my clinic to somebody sat there and I'm going, I know that I'm not going to employ you, but I still have to go through this interview because they're going to learn from it and stuff like that. But I'm not saying wear a suit, shirt and tie, whatever, but wear what's appropriate to that job that you're going into. If that's smart dress, that's smart dress. If that's so all university students on a sports therapy program get given sports therapy kit. It's normally a polo and a pair of shorts. Wear that. Like, at least you are representing where you've come from. It's smart and it's efficient to what you're going to do. Don't turn up like somebody did in a baseball cap, for example. Like, you're not going to come to work in that and be patient facing and treating people. Come appropriately dressed, and it will also put you in the mindset that you need to be in. Like, I went to a school where you wear shirt and tie every single day. I was a ballroom Latin dancer. You wore a shirt and tie every time you trained. I then went to college and wore track bottoms every day, and I struggled in my exams because I just wasn't feeling comfortable and in the mindset. And then I'd come here, and on a written paper exam, I would wear a shirt. Everybody would laugh at me. I'd wear like a normal casual shirt, but at least I had my buttons done up and I felt like I was ready and prepped to go into that because that was how I felt comfortable. Yeah. And now, outside of that, like, yes, I still wear trackies quite a lot, but in situations where I feel like I'm out of my depth a little bit or I need to look a certain like professional way, I could revert back to that and my head goes back into that. So it's kind of what you feel comfortable in, but also what represents you as an individual and the industry or business you're going to go into. That's what I'd say.
That's such a clever outlook. I never thought of it like
that mindset, doesn't it?
Yeah.
When you really struggle with A level and you're trying to pull anything out the bag to get to university, then you find a way. You find a way.
Oh, amazing. So did you kind of have, or do you kind of have any funny stories from interviews, whether that's like you interviewing people or interviews you've been into?
I think I had like a bit of an embarrassing moment. One of my interviews was on Teams. And I set like a ring light up at the back of my room so like it would like give me better lighting.
Yeah,
and
that
it
glow.
died halfway
Oh,
through.
God.
And like the guy that was interviewing me actually laughed, and I was like, oh, he's noticed. And like I just went bright red. I just knew that he definitely found that hilarious. And it was just one of those moments that is mine, like, it doesn't matter. But to me, that really threw me. I was like, that's really embarrassing. My ring lights just died. But I think you obviously say stuff in the moment that you're like, you come out of the interview and you're like, why did I say that? That's really embarrassing. And I feel like I'm quite a chatty person in the sense that I like to make a little bit of a joke. But in interviews, I feel like you don't want to come across as too jokey because then you come across as unserious. But also I want to show my personality of being really like extroverted and stuff like that. But yeah, I don't think I've had too many. I think because I haven't had loads of jobs, I've had like obviously part-time ones, and then this is my main full-time one. I don't think I've had too many embarrassing moments, but I feel like, have you got any?
I haven't personally, other than the baseball cap and going, I just don't want to follow through with this, but I have to. I'd say interviewing on Teams is really, really hard, and if you can get an in-person interview, actually it's better.
Yeah,
because also you end up like today, you go somewhere, you sit, you outside of your normal comfortable environment, which can be throwing, but like at least you're not sat. I remember doing an interview on Teams up against a white wall at my kitchen table, and I was like, I'm at home. Why am I doing an interview? This feels so weird.
Yeah.
And again, like you can be in a suit on Teams, but you could still be in your slippers for all they know. Like it doesn't necessarily look and feel right. And so that can be quite daunting, but also a bit weird at the same time. So getting an in-person one makes you think a certain way much better.
I feel like they just get you more as well. Like they can, I feel like for a screen you can like kind of, you don't forget the full personality of someone, but like in person you can just feel that energy from someone, and if they like you then that's great, but if they don't then clearly that's not the right place for you, because
it's easier to represent yourself and them to understand who you are and get a feel for who you are.
Yeah, definitely.
Amazing, perfect. I'm going to not do any on Teams. I'm just going to go in person.
Unfortunately, sometimes you don't get the option, which is the hardest bit. But
yeah, I know, because it's always like stop and starting. You're like, do I speak now? Do I not speak now? So awkward.
And then if like more than one person speaks, you're just like, who's going?
Also, if there's more than one person, the screen's flicking around and it's getting confusing. And
yeah, it's not good.
And sometimes not everybody has their camera on, even in an interview, which is then really hard.
Oh,
that's really.
I had that once.
That seems like.
Had that once. No. It was really. I was the interviewee.
Yeah.
And somebody didn't have their camera on. That was part of the panel, and it was really quite hard to then gauge what they're thinking, if you see what I mean, because their tone and voice can say one thing, but their facial expressions to an answer can say a completely other thing. And when you can't see that, it's quite hard. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So kind of in your last year of uni, because obviously dissertation, assessments, it can get really quite busy. Like I know that for myself at the moment. But when did you start thinking about, I'm going to start applying, I'm going to start writing a CV, going to start applying for stuff, writing cover letters? When did you start thinking about that, or did you give yourself a bit of a break after finishing?
Mine was a slightly different process because I did the undergraduate and then did the MSCI integrated masters, so my third and fourth year were a bit blurred. So I did a dissertation in my third year, dissertation in my fourth year, but I was looking for jobs about 3-4 months before I was going to graduate. What I mean by that was end the academic year, not when you actually do your graduation ceremony. And started looking then and applying then to say, okay, this is when I'm going to end this is when I can start. And most places are accepting of people that got a 3 months notice to work period anyway. So yeah, that's when I started putting things together. And by that point, if you've gone on placement, you've actually got some stuff you can put on there as well. Yeah.
Perfect.
I think mine was like a couple of months beforehand. I met with the careers team to help me like with my CV, because I was just like, I've had loads of part-time jobs since the age of 16, but like never one that I've had to really like sell myself, like for restaurant jobs and stuff. You don't really need to be like, oh my god, your company's amazing.
Yeah, I love it.
So yeah, I met with the careers team. They helped me with my CV, which was really helpful. But yeah, I just wanted to make sure that I wasn't without a job as soon as I finished, because I'm just one of those people that needs to kind of have that structure. So I finished my dissertation, and then a week later I started here, so I didn't really give myself much time to rest.
Straight in.
But it just kind of worked out in that sense. Like, I don't really mind going like on the go, although I did get quite ill afterwards. I think my body was like, you need a rest. Like, I just kept getting colds and stuff. But I think I started looking 2-3 months, like you say, beforehand, because I just wanted to make sure my CV was like ready and stuff like that. But yeah.
Perfect.
I didn't take a break either. I just,
Straight in.
Yeah,
Straight in.
But I was very much in the mindset, even with education, of if I stop now, I probably won't go back to the same thing. So I didn't take a gap year. I didn't take a gap between my masters. It was from school to college to university, and then straight into working. Yes, I've taken breaks and holidays, whatever. But if I had an extended break, I'd find it very hard to go back into something. And if I had an extended break where I was working in a different industry, already earning money, I'd have found it very hard to go back.
Yeah. So what have you found the biggest differences between working and like university life?
Not having everything dictated for you of when you need to be where, and being in control of certain things, and going back to working in clinics for 4 different clinics in a week, having control of your diary and being kind of, okay, this is when I need to be here, and planning out, and also just being disciplined in terms of right, I've got to get up here, leave here, and stuff like that. I was quite fortunate to do that at university anyway. I knew that I was coming to get a degree. I knew that at the end of the day I still had a great time. I went out every Wednesday and wrote off Thursday morning, but it meant that I did work on a Saturday, so that I could cover the time that I had lost out in terms of the academic side of things, and just having that discipline to go, I'm still getting this, I love this section of it, but this is what I really came to get was a degree. And so having that and just planning out and having the discipline to execute on what you actually are saying you're going to do. And because at the end of the day, if you work for somebody else, you go into a job like, you're going to let other people down and let yourself down if you then start saying yes to things and going, okay, I've got to be there at 9 o'clock, and you turn up at 9:20, people are going to start being irritated for that.
Yeah, I think like having that, like, you have to stick to a structure, like you can't like divert off it, like you are working for an employer, like you need to, show up every time. I think also, like, aside from work and stuff, I think adjustments to like seeing friends and stuff, you have to like really like grow up and like try and book in to see your friends and like food shops and just looking after yourself. Like, I live on my own, so it's kind of like just regulating that and just making sure everything's like bills and everything under control. And I feel like from living at home at uni, that's definitely really influenced that, and just knowing how much money's coming in and stuff like that. So I think that's definitely influenced like that. That's the big change of like working at uni and not working at uni, being at uni and working is just like you are responsible for your life now. Like, there's no one holding your hand. It's just you and what you want to do in life.
Me, myself and I.
Myself and I. But I think that's kind of where I'm at with that.
Just off of that, when speaking, so when I came back here to teach once, and I was speaking to one of my old lecturers, and she was like, how are you doing? How's everybody else doing? And I was like, if I'm honest, I generally don't know how everybody else is doing. And that wasn't because I wasn't socialising with them or anything like that, but we were all at just different life stages. And like at the time, I just moved into a house. I had a little boy, and nobody else of my friend group had a house or children. Some of them had gone on to do other masters and do other things. And so then balancing that and having an understanding that it's okay that everybody else is doing different things to you, and that you might not be as close to them as you were before, but everybody's going through different things, and accepting that and not bringing yourself down for that, for going down a different path. But also at the same time just going, no, it's okay, we'll find the time that we all link up together again, and not fighting to try and hold stuff that is moving in different directions, without criticising anybody at the same time for
I feel like that's like the biggest panic of people is like, oh, they're doing that, they're doing really well, oh, I should be here. And like everyone's on their own little journeys and stuff like that. And I think university, especially coming out of that, it kind of is that, like, it is like spotlight on everyone is what they're doing, and you see their LinkedIn posts and stuff like that, and you just kind of you start to panic, but you shouldn't, because everyone has like different things. Some people might want to travel like straight after uni, and in that sense, so like friendships, they like will drift apart for a bit because you are busy and you're moving away in different places. But just finding the time to like reconnect with people, and not putting pressure on the sense that you have to like, you know.
Yeah.
Trying to find your feet again, really, aren't you?
Yeah.
And everybody's in the same. But it's like coming to uni and trying to find your feet and not knowing anybody and trying to make friends again. Then it's 3 years later, your life's turned upside down again, and that's not a bad thing. That's how it goes. But it's about finding your feet again, and then finding what's the new norm for everything. And again, priorities change in terms of bills.
Yeah.
getting your life together and going, oh, actually, this is what true adulthood looks like, if you see what I mean. And university is a stepping stone towards that. It gives you your independence in some instances for some people, but then there's another layer or multiple layers to that afterwards.
Yeah. And did either of you work when you were at university? Did you have like a part-time job or anything?
I was in a very fortunate position where I didn't have to.
Okay, nice.
I had 2 jobs. I kind of swapped about, but I did taught in a dance school, which was nice, like being creative in that sense, and then worked in a restaurant, which was also nice because the tips were good. And then I kind of quit those 2 and then went into sports coaching, because it was just quite nice I had a couple of friends that worked in the sports coaching business. So I kind of had a couple of different jobs, but I think it definitely helped with like, you know, going out funds and stuff like that. And I think I've always had that mentality of my own money kind of thing. So at uni it didn't really change in that sense. Obviously I had student finance, which was definitely really helpful. Probably wouldn't be able to survive without that.
I know what you mean.
But the part-time jobs definitely helped. It still continued to me to like improve with like customer service and stuff like that. I feel that's a key, especially in hospitality. Just
apply it to anything.
Yeah, and they obviously those sort of industries love having students involved in that. So it's quite handy having. I recommend if you are coming to uni, like if you do want to work part time, like those sort of hospitality industries are just quite easy to just turn up. Do your thing, leave, and then
there tend to be the hours that can work around your course as well. So, but it goes back to like you learn to communicate with people. You get you in some cases you might be learning stuff on your program that you can then it might be left field, but you can still implement some of it in terms of how you communicate with people and go about things. Which would if it's a means that you have to do or need to do or want to do, then it's definitely something that is possible while you're at university.
Yeah, I agree. And obviously your 2 industries that you're in now are completely different. Is it quite like a competitive market to get into them when you first kind of were opening that door into it?
At the time, because there wasn't a huge number of job roles, but now the job roles are more forthcoming, and the areas in which you can go into now. For example, when I was graduating, you couldn't go into the NHS, you couldn't work in the military. Your kind of options were work in sport, work in private practice, and either going into academia. They were the kind of main 3 things. Now there's a whole host of different avenues that you can go down. So for example, down the road in Worthing there's a firefighter rehab centre that you can now work in and that sort of thing. So now it is a lot more forthcoming than it was when I graduated.
Amazing.
I feel like more so now, like looking at jobs, like digital marketing is very competitive because everyone's moving more online. But I feel like there are a lot of jobs in it, so it's like saturated, but it's also like you can probably still find that like that way in. But especially like you can be an independent social media marketer like from home, like have your own businesses and stuff. So do freelance and stuff like that. So I feel like it is quite competitive, but I think there are like ways of getting in and
But if you've got a niche interest within that as well, so for example with your dance background, like you could do social media marketing or digital marketing for a dance school or a dance company, or even going like to my Borum Latin days, there'll be professional dancers that need that aid and support, and like you might have a therapy background with a bit of digital marketing on the side. Like that is gold dust to a business owner. You can bring that in and add that.
That was the original idea. I was telling everyone I'm going to do a digital marketing masters for a dance company. But however, I did find that quite hard. That is quite competitive, especially for dance. But definitely like those sort of niches are music like good for you.
Amazing. And I know you've touched on this briefly, but did your expectation of your like career path changed when you entered like the workforce?
Yeah.
I feel like you have more experience. You go first, and I'll.
So yeah, like I said, when I sat in a room not too far from here and sat in the front row, I've got a picture of it on my phone with two of my best mates, all bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, ready to go and work in professional sport. We all tried it. None of us went into it long term. And I never thought I would work in academia, and then the university here gave me an opportunity to come back and teach, and which I absolutely loved, to the point where it was, okay, can I do more of this? And I didn't know that door would ever be open for me, to the point now where I've hold a full-time contract doing it, for example. And again, I knew that I wanted to run a therapy business, but I didn't expect to do it 3 months after graduating. Now have 2 clinics, 2 separate businesses that operate that actually do very little with me in it. So I run a business now rather than be a true therapist. So it's kind of changed direction and path the whole way. And it will probably change direction and path again from here forward. So the end goal is still the same. The end goal for me is not kind of this certain role. It's to enjoy what I'm doing and still be involved in the therapy industry in one way or another and be a therapist. That's what I truly got into therapy for. So I still treat patients a little bit, but not to the levels I was previously. But also for me, I'm now teaching students. My ultimate aim was to help people. And now I'm teaching more people to help people, if you see what I mean by that. So I have a wider kind of feel to that. But yeah, the end goal was never be a senior therapist here or whatever. So the path will change, and that's why I was open at university and open-minded, which I think is massive for students, to do different placements, to taste different things and go, okay, I might not do this now, or I might not enjoy it now, but in the real world, could I see myself in this industry? And from that, you take things away that you go, no, that's definitely not for me. But you wouldn't have learned that if you didn't do it, and you wouldn't have had the opportunities. And I still, in those places, took things away that I use today that I wouldn't have known if I didn't do them.
Yeah.
So, yeah, definitely, it's a wiggly path. It's never a linear
100%.
path.
I think mine's obviously a bit more like, I've been in this role for 2 years. So I actually was quite shocked at how well I took to this sort of like work life, and how much I really actually enjoy doing digital marketing. And my specialities is obviously advertising and social media, more social media. So, but just finding out what you enjoy. So I did a bit of like website, events, and kind of just trial different things in my roles, and then that kind of led me down to the path of focusing on social media, which is like the main thing. So yeah, and I kind of future wise, I do want to like work abroad and stuff like that, and I feel like for my role that works because you can kind of do digital marketing anywhere. But it's just it's quite an exciting job in the sense that you're like marketing to people, and like you're seeing your work being put out to like prospective students, and it's quite fun. Love like engaging with like the students and stuff, so we do like TikToks and like getting them involved in things, because I understand that especially now like Gen Z, they just love that sort of like interaction with that with the organisation. So yeah, I've definitely the career path has like led me more to a more direct thing of like social media and advertising, but I'm excited to see where else it branches out into, and hopefully end up working abroad somewhere.
Yeah, hopefully somewhere hot.
Me want to do digital marketing now.
Yeah, I know. All 3 of us.
Hopefully somewhere in Australia.
Oh, same. I'll join you. So what do you guys wish you knew when you were a student kind of going into the workforce? Anything you know now that you're like, oh, a few years ago, wish I had that under my belt?
I think I kind of wish I did a few more placements on my course. I think, we had a couple of placements, but I think I would have preferred a few more, just so that I could have it more on my CV, which might have helped me with other job roles and stuff like that. But I feel like I was kind of quite prepared by my lectures and stuff, by the realities of work life. I think dance was a bit of a hazy thing where it's like, it is hard, like it's going to be tricky, but you never understand how hard it is until you're about to leave. Whereas digital marketing, it was more like they gave me the tools to like, spread my wings, and it was a bit more easier in that sense of like I understood it a bit more of what I wanted to achieve. But yeah, I don't even know if that answered your question. I think I just waffled that whole thing.
That's okay.
The one's got more of a path to it in terms of this
Yeah.
is the skill set that you bring to the table, right? And the other one is creative but could be quite subjective in somebody's view of, do I like that? Does that fit that role or not? With therapy, it's very much like, here's your skill set. This is how you treat things. For me personally, and this isn't for everybody, but I spent 2 years learning how to run a business. 83% of sports therapists are self-employed in one capacity or another. I was very lucky that my mum's a bookkeeper and basically filed my tax return and did everything that I needed. But I would have liked some of that in the course. But the problem with that, and this is from being an academic as well, is there's so much content that we have to teach from a skill set basis that it isn't dictated by us, it's dictated by the course's governing body, that it's kind of, there's no room to fit it in. And so that's the only thing that I can say that I would have liked a little bit more of, because we did loads of placement. We had that kind of, this is what the real world setting does kind of look like. So yeah, that's the only thing for me.
I felt even like CV writing, like you can go to careers and stuff, but I think if obviously the lecturers and stuff are also in that industry, seeing what they would want to see on a CV would also be quite handy. Because you kind of write it thinking, yeah, that's really good, and then you're like, you don't really know what the employer wants until like you get that feedback. So like you say, like it's obviously really hard to incorporate that into the course, but I think more tailored, like, you know, subject specific CV writing is also really beneficial.
One thing I'd love to see is a placement student go, what do you think of my CV? Like that, like you're working with these people week in, week out on placement. You never know, there might be a job at the end of it. So for example, one of my friends who was on the masters with us, he worked in professional rugby as part of his placement. He got a job role at the end of it. And he could have, I don't know if he did, but go, what do you think of this personal statement for this different job? Or what do you think of this CV for this different job? And they'll give you the feedback. And then you can go, okay, well, let's apply that feedback and then apply for whatever role you got. Because they are, as much as lecturers can still be in the industry, not all of them are still technically in the industry. And so if you have a more direct link and it's a part of the industry you want to go into, if that makes sense. So like if I wanted to work in sport, I'd ask the sport clubs therapist rather than the private practice therapist. But I think don't be afraid to ask, even as a student, for things. If you don't ask, you don't get. Whether that's asking your lecturers to help you find a placement, whether that's asking a placement provider, do you have any jobs at the end of this, or what do I need to show you to get more for you to give more trust to me to do more things, or to help me with my CV or whatever it might be.
Definitely.
At the end of the day, all they can say is no. And you haven't lost out.
True. Just put yourself out there.
Yeah.
Oh, amazing. And kind of on your career path so far, have you encountered anything that's been quite a challenging experience? Something's happened, or has it been quite smooth sailing?
I feel like when you work in like larger teams, like you might have like communication breakdowns and stuff like that, which you have to overcome. I feel like that's like, that helps you grow up, doesn't it? Like you're working with loads of adults and you've got to maneuver those kind of situations. You might not agree with someone, you might not agree with how they do something. I think that's like the biggest thing is, just knowing that it's not just you in that team, like there's other people you have to work with. But at the end of the day, like you all have that kind of end goal of achieving that sort of thing. But yeah, I think just being mature in scenarios of like approaching things professionally, I think that's definitely one thing that I've learned as like a challenge or something.
It's not personal.
No, it's never personal.
That's the other thing, is like you should be able to close the door and go out and have a normal chat about everything else. I have a completely different route, and mainly because in the last couple of years I've worked in teams, and it's only where in my lecturing role it's only me and one other in our actual teaching team, so it's not a huge team, but I've been mainly self-employed, working by myself or working for other people, but as a solo practitioner, so I'm the only person in the building at any one time. It's when things go wrong that you go, okay, take accountability for it, own up to it, and people will respect that more than trying to beat around a bush or hide certain things. So it kind of goes back to that communication side of things, and just being open and honest and communicating effectively is the best way out of multiple different situations.
Yeah, amazing.
I feel like at uni you either kind of develop those skills, or they kind of hit you when you go into the work environment. You can either maneuver through university and like have those kind of open conversations, or like it will kind of hit you when you get to work in the environment, and those do come into play when you're like having to, you know, take into people's feelings and like work together, and it's not all about like what you want to do, it's about, you know, what's best for the team and stuff. So communication's key.
And you might feel like you're developing that personally outside of work, but it doesn't necessarily cross over. There's links between, but it can be great at work and not in your personal life communication, or it can be the other way around. Because everybody's different. You're dealing with different people, and they don't at work understand you or know you as deeply as the people outside of work to understand how you're actually communicating. So working with different dynamics of relationships is part of it.
Yeah, perfect. So to kind of conclude all of this, what are your top tips for graduates that are finishing up now or in the next few years?
One thing that's been massive for me is a mentor of some shape or capacity. That could be somebody else at work that's been in the role that you've been in, or is somewhere that you want to get to. Having that to bounce ideas off, to go, do you think this is going to work or not? Doesn't mean you have to take their advice. You can still go down it and it just not follow a tried and tested model or whatever. But having that, and that could be somebody in a different industry, but that you trust their opinion and can have a conversation with. That, and two other things would be open-minded, massively open-minded, and try different things is the third one for me.
Yeah, I think the last two for me, definitely be open-minded, and like just trial different things, like just apply for things, see how it goes, do placements like you say, and just be you.
Be you.
Yeah, I think it's just like there's a lot of pressure to be like, I need to get a job straight away, and some people, like for us obviously that worked out well, but then for other people like it might not happen, and that's fine. But yeah, like I think throughout uni, if you just gain those communication skills, be open-minded, trial things, and just be like the sort of person that an employer would want to employ you, like I think that's definitely beneficial.
We're in a world now, and you're an example of this, that you don't necessarily do what you set out to do, and you can start on that path, and you can change and move, and by the sounds of it you're in a similar path to that. But you'll take values and learn things that you can transition from each one. And something that I've had to pick up on as an employer massively is I don't employ necessarily on skills anymore. I employ on values and kind of work ethic and what they bring to the table, because skills can be taught in whatever industry. Like I might now apply to do a digital marketing course. I'm nowhere near that or would ever do it, but I can pick those skills up along the way. But it's the other values that I bring to the table that might get me in the door there. So yeah, just skill set is one thing. It's this, for me, there's a lot of soft skills that come alongside that.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I should get a notepad and just like write all this down.
You just listening back to this podcast.
Yeah, like this. Brilliant. Well, have you guys got anything else you'd like to add?
I don't think so. I think just reiterating, just don't put too much pressure. Like, just see what's out there and just learn as much as you can whilst you're at uni, because you can make mistakes at uni and they help you for when you leave, and then you'll grow even more when you leave. So it's all a journey.
Yeah, it's a journey.
Last thing is just to plug the university a little bit, is you've got two massive advocates of the university here in terms of we haven't gone very far from it, if you see what I mean. And that's not, I'm not saying that's a bad thing. What I mean by that is it's a very nice place to be. It's a 100%. Place that a lot of people feel comfortable. It's not too small, it's not too big. You know most people on campus, one form or another. And it's a nice place to come back to.
It's really nice.
So if it's somewhere that you're thinking is a place on your radar of going to, then
do recommend.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you. Well, thank you so much for being a part of this podcast. You've been great. If you guys follow the socials that are on the screen, and thank you so much for listening.
Bye.
Bye.